Hello and welcome to the Jesters Court. I'm your host, Mike, or Jester. Mampulu will be joining us a little bit later after the introduction here. Tonight we're going to be talking about the very controversial Ghostbusters Answer the Call. We will be joined later by Wally Phelps. But before we get all to that, I wanted to recognize some patrons. We have Mr. Firebrand, Derek Diamond, Kyle Keir, Soda Bread, and Robert Hood. You guys help keep the lights on. We appreciate you more than you could ever know. You too can become a patron. Just head on over to patron.com/the Jesters Court. Tiers start as low as $3 a month, and you get early access to episodes and bonus material, including monthly commentary tracks and Saturday morning cartoons, where we watch cartoons from the 80s and 90s in our Discord, complete with authentic commercials from the era. All right. So now we're going to leave and we're going to go check out the movie, and I'll be back with our guests. So we are back, and as promised, we have the award-winning comedy writer, Mr. Wally Phelps. Hello, Wally.
Hello. For a while there, I thought I was the Matt Damon of this show to your, I don't even remember the guy's name. You know, the whole thing. Sorry, apologies to Matt Damon. We've run out of time.
Oh yeah, was it Tonight Show? I know what you're referencing.
Yeah, it's the guy that was on the Man Show. Why can't I think of his name?
I can picture him, and I can't think of his name. I'm right there with you. But yes, it was a late show, and he kept getting bumped.
Yeah.
Hopefully not this time.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope the internet is strong as your opinions on this film.
Which, in the case of Monthulu, who has also joined us since the introduction, is very strong.
Yeah, sure is.
So tonight we are talking about 2016's Ghostbusters Answer the Call, starring Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones. Directed by Paul Feig. Am I saying his name right? Feig?
You are saying his name correctly. It's Feig.
Feig, cool. Guys, you'd be hard-pressed to find a movie that gets more hate from the fans than this one.
Yeah. I am completely shocked that I enjoyed the movie because and it's a lot of it's because of the fact that I don't know many people who do enjoy the movie. I know maybe a handful of people who do. And I guess it's because it might just not be a good movie, and I am very, very biased, but I don't know. I just really I like it. I don't love this movie. I want to be clear. But yeah, I thought it was a decent film.
For me, it lays somewhere in between decent movie, good movie, not great. Again, I will be with you in that. Somewhere between that and not as bad as everyone thinks. So, like, I feel like I want to defend it because it's not the dumpster fire that everyone would assume.
I mean, I have very real problems with the movie, but I don't think they're any more than any other movie that I think is kind of middling. You know, it's not anybody who walked in believing that this movie was going to be as good as Ghostbusters was in for a fool's errand, regardless as to the quality of the movie.
The rudest awakening ever.
Right, because it's not even the same type of movie. It's with Ghostbusters, the whole thing was played pretty straight. I mean, it was a horror comedy in the greatest sense of that word, and all of the humor came out of the situations. And from the moment that they did the first actual joke in the new Ghostbusters, I knew that this was a totally different tone that they were going for. It was a totally different thing they were going for. So I think that thought process of, and then my expectation lowered a whole lot. I was able to have fun with the movie.
Which this is why Wally's awesome. He has already jumped into what our first complaint was going to be, which is it is inaccurate and or bad reboot of the first film, i.e. the spirit. Like it's not the same. And I think Wally's already kind of touched on it. It wasn't meant to be.
Right. Well, I mean, the first giveaway for everybody should have been that the entire cast of the Ghostbusters all had vaginas. So if you were looking for it to be anything like that, it wasn't. It just absolutely wasn't going to be.
Wait,
Number
wait.
two, like,
Did this
why?
this movie have women?
Shut up. It also had Chris Hemsworth in there, so there.
Hey, he was a treat and possibly
He
one of
was
the best
the
parts
only
of the movie.
good part of the freaking movie, but I'll save that for a later discussion. But who in their right mind thinks that they can take a masterpiece and just redo it? I mean, it's never good when they redo.
I
something.
don't see it as they were trying to redo it. I see it more as of an homage.
But it wasn't even that.
It
I mean,
was.
I think that's how I looked at it, because and whenever I first watched the movie, I saw that they were going in places that were similar but not the same. It wasn't like The Force Awakens, where it was almost a beat by beat reproduction of the original.
Correct.
But it did do a lot of the same things, but it skewed everything in a way that was Paul Feig. It was, his voice that was coming through. Normally his voice is a lot better, but because, this is the same guy who, did Bridesmaids, which is one of the biggest comedies ever. And he was one of the writer directors of The Office. And it should have been, I'm not going to lie, it should have been better than what it was. But for what it was, I thought it was an entertaining little side attraction. It's like the original Ghostbusters is the, Space Mountain of Ghostbusters, while this was the Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It belongs in the park, but maybe you don't have to ride it every time you go.
Maybe you go there when Space Mountain's full.
Right.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And one of my things was the pacing of the movie, but then I'm reading about it and I'm doing research for this episode, and the original cut was like 4 hours long.
Right.
The fact that he got it down to 2, I think, is, spectacular.
The man had no self-control.
Clearly.
I would like to see that cut of the film. I mean, it has to be better. It has to be.
I would hope there was some fleshing out of the characters a little more, and
Right. I feel the same way. I feel like the villain needed a lot more than what we got. It didn't feel, the stakes didn't feel as high as they should have by the end of the film, because I really didn't care for the guy,
right?
as a villain.
Well, and even at the end, with like the thousands of ghosts are coming up, and like that's supposed to be the climax of the movie, and you don't really feel, like you said, the stakes. You're like, okay, this is happening.
Right, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's not practical effects for the most part. It's, all obvious CG.
Yeah,
and none of it has that look that we expect from Ghostbusters ghosts and villains.
No, because it's a comedy, so it's lighthearted, so it's all bright and well lit.
Which is a strange choice for me, because the villains in the other Ghostbusters, the cartoon and the movies, 1 and 2, are dead serious.
Yes.
In a lot of ways, and with 1 or 2 cartoony ones.
And it's much darker. Like the whole the directing style is darker. There's a whole grittiness to the original Ghostbusters, and even Ghostbusters Afterlife, there's that still underlying grittiness about it. And this one was just like bright colors and sunshine. I hated it.
The worst, the times that they actually do something successful are the more subdued bits.
Yeah.
So, the moment whenever they're inside of the actual rock and roll club and they're exploring the backstage area, that whole portion of the film I thought was really good. Then they went out on stage and then it all kind of fell apart, but I really enjoyed everything leading up to it. And with everything that was in the subway, I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why the tone would be so wildly different in other sections. It didn't feel like the creature designs had that cohesive thing that needed it to be in order to be the classic that Ghostbusters is. Well, the original Ghostbusters anyway.
And I gotta wonder. I didn't see this in any of the. If this happened, then no one's talking about it. But I gotta wonder if the studio didn't get a little touchy feely with the production.
Oh, I have to be, because Amy Pascal is notorious for that, and that's why all the Spider-Man movies aren't that good unless we have Kevin Feige involved. It's one of those things where she loves to have her hands on things. She's like, I know what the public wants, and she does not know what the public wants. And she is convinced that she is so much better at this than anybody else. Now, with that being said, I believe that Paul Feig actually did most of all. I think his vision is on screen. I think it got muddied with what the studio wanted versus what he wanted versus the fact that he's not used to handling such a large budget. I think had a lot to do with it. And that's really what it all boiled down to me. I think it was kind of a too many cooks situation.
Yeah, I can go there. What do you think there?
But I still like it.
Yeah, everything we're saying, it was with the caveat, still like it, with the exception of Mom Thulu.
Yeah, no, I still hate it. I mean, let's just throw that qualifier in there. The word "still."
Right.
But the next complaint, and we actually only had 2 major complaints over this, because this is what's great, is you get a movie like this where everyone's like, oh my God, it sucks. But then you try to find a cohesive what's wrong with it, and it's 50 different people going, it sucks.
But why?
Yeah, exactly. So, instead of 3 complaints, we have 2, because those are the only ones I could codify, okay, there's a bunch of these. So our second and last complaint is the story is weak and badly written. And I kind of have to give it to him on that. Again, still like the movie. But we mentioned this before. I don't think you get invested in the characters, the villain, or the good guys. And it kind of feels rushed production.
Mm-hmm.
It does, because it kind of fast forwards itself toward the end of the movie. It just feels so jarring when we go from Chris Hemsworth's character getting possessed by the ghost at the end of the movie. It just seems like it happens out of nowhere. It has to have some sort of narrative reason for all of that to happen, and we just don't.
It's not there.
It just needed a couple of more drafts, and I think they were just, I don't know why they would have rushed this movie, but I really believe they rushed this movie. And they had been working on that movie forever, with the Dan Aykroyd draft that was out there, the one that was written by the screenwriters Lee Eisenberg and Gene Stupnitsky, who were writers for The Office. That was actually even announced at one point as being the next Ghostbusters, and then they got dropped in favor of this idea of having Paul Feig come in and do it, because he was the hot thing at the moment. And whenever they asked him, what do you want to do? He said, Ghostbusters, like you do. And I can't blame him for it. I just really wish that he would have taken the time out to say, look, if I can't do this, if I can't make this the way I really want it, then I'm not going to do it. And he didn't do that. Instead, he worked with what he was given, like the good studio man that he was, and effectively put himself in director jail.
Nice.
Shame.
Yeah. You hate to see that too, because we just did Aliens 3 last week, and it's there were plenty of people who vocally said the studio was messing around with them, but yeah, same deal. We're third director in, and we want you to do it this way, but it doesn't make sense. We don't care.
We didn't ask you for your opinion.
Right, this will sell product.
Yeah, and
I think that was a lot of it too. Is that the reason why they had so many ghosts that were just all over the place is because they were trying to sell stuff to us.
I mean, you know, if you look at the '80s, which most of the people they were targeting for this movie grew up in, we were kind of susceptible to that. I mean, how many cartoons did we have that were basically toy lines that they created a cartoon around?
Oh, absolutely.
many.
I mean, all of them.
Oh yeah, most of them anyway. Transformers, He-Man, I think was a toy first.
Oh,
GoBots.
no, He-Man was not a toy first.
He-Man. He-Man was a comic book first.
Yeah.
But it was a comic book commissioned by Hasbro in anticipation of the toy line.
There you go.
So I was only slightly off with the timeline.
Right. So, you know, there's a technicality there, but
I would go out as far out on a limb and say that She-Ra was the one that was, you know, to toy first and anticipate, you know.
Right.
Like, I don't even think there was a comic book for her. She just magically appeared one day.
Yeah, and that's to appeal to the female demographic, which is what happened here. With far worse results.
Which, by the way, is my unspoken complaint, because there was a third complaint that was said over and over again, but I almost discount it because it's, you know, I'm using quotations, purists who complain you can't replace them with women, but most of them were just pissed that they had boobs and, you know.
I don't even think it was like that. Let's be real. Like, okay, there was like a whole demographic of women that were actually pissed that they thought they had to reboot the Ghostbusters with a vagina in order to have us have representation. We didn't ask for that. That's the first thing. So that's where the complaint on the female side is that there were some that were like, yay, girl power, you know, but we had strong female characters in the Ghostbusters. I mean, Sigourney Weaver was in there as Dana. She was a strong female character. We did not need the representation of a female Ghostbuster. And they actually gave it to us in a much better form when they did Afterlife.
That's true. There's two of them in Afterlife.
And while you are correct, I'm also going to say you're also incorrect, because there were plenty of people who were just pissed that they were girls.
Right. Well, because before it was sight unseen. But my whole problem with the casting was more that it didn't seem like any of them really knew what a Ghostbuster, what being a Ghostbuster was really, what that means.
That's
you know,
exactly
it felt, they didn't feel right for the parts for the most part, except for Kate McKinnon. Kate McKinnon was really good in that movie. Oh, and I'm sorry, I like Leslie Jones, but I feel that not making her a scientist was weird, because that whole plot line of her being the subway person didn't need to happen. You know, why not just have her up front? You know, I liked her character and I like Kate McKinnon. The other two were just not right. They were not right for those two roles, especially with the lead roles, because that's what they were. They were co-leads, and neither of them were really good at it.
Yeah, and so the thing is, you don't need. So you needed Winston in the first movie. You needed a straight man, because they were very scientific and very, well, not real scientific. They were very movie scientific, pseudoscientific, and you kind of needed that. But they didn't really go over the top with science talk in this.
No.
You didn't really need a straight man to kind of ground them.
And a lot of that is the fact that Dan Aykroyd didn't have anything to do with the story or anything like that. And as a result, you had far less of that, because that was his thing. So whenever you have these people, and I'm going to be completely upfront, I don't like a lot of the gadgets in this movie, and especially the trap.
Is it possible?
It's ugly.
Yes.
And stupid.
What I was trying to, for me, they look cool and they're dumb at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the proton pack is fine in this movie. I think it's cool. It has the cool element, the red element in the back and the Faraday cage. That looks really cool. The trap it looks like the ooze canister from the Ninja Turtles, and I don't like it.
And I hate to be a purist, and I hate to be like, you didn't do it like they did the first movies, but when you started getting the elaborate, like, you know, like the grenades and stuff, I was like, do you know what the beams were supposed to do? Because that's not how it works.
Right. Yeah, I know. Because like my thought comes up, it's like, how does this even work?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you have a gun that will disintegrate the ghost, then what point is the trap?
Yeah,
At that
exactly.
point, what are you doing? You know, I didn't. I mean, yeah, it had some really fun moments there playing with those toys, I guess, but it felt so off. And they had the little jokes about testing the equipment and things of that nature. We don't need that. Bring us into the story and let the comedy come from the story, which is what the original Ghostbusters did. But
See, for
that's
me, it
not what
was
they did.
like the storyline was so rushed that they missed out on like there was no world build, like there was no story building there. There was none. You know, in the original Ghostbusters, the whole reason they're hunting ghosts is because, you know, of Egon and Ray, who are, you know, because we all know that Venkman is just kind of a big joker at that point.
Yeah, but Venkman
Yeah.
is pushing because he wants the money.
He's
Exactly.
coasting on his grants.
But there was no real, you know, like, hey, this is why we're hunting ghosts here. It was just, we are scientists, we're going to do ghosty things, you know. It was so stupid.
I
mean,
would point
for
out too that the
I
way she
would-
got fired makes no sense at all.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
None
because
at all. Like, did they not watch the rest of the video where they could see clearly that she was right?
there are ghosts there. Yeah, I mean, that video at the beginning of it has ghosts. What do you when? I mean, they could take you there. You know, that place still exists.
And that bothers me because not just because it's a plot hole, but it's a plot hole that would have easily been fixed. If you want to match the story from the first movie and get them fired, then right away for her to get fired makes sense.
Right. And I understand you wanting to have it where she has no choice but to join this group. But what else? I'm not even sure how they. Oh, yeah, that's right. Never mind. Holtzman invented all the stuff like in a day.
Yeah.
But a lot of it doesn't make any sense because in the original Ghostbusters, there's at least some time between when they start the whole, well, hey, I might be able to catch ghosts, to now we have the money to catch ghosts, and to, okay, we are a fully formed business. And this was not that.
Yeah, you're because they get fired from Columbia, and like, you know, at that point they're like, it's theoretical. Like, I think we can, you know, make a trap and hold ghosts indefinitely.
Right.
And then Bateman's eyes get big with dollar signs. Like,
he's like, wait a minute. Where are we going to get that kind of capital? I don't know. Cut to a joke. And that is getting humor out of the scenario. And we didn't see a whole lot of that at all. And I'm very disappointed in the fact that I didn't like this movie more than I do. But to be completely frank, I watch this movie occasionally, but every time I'm like, I could be watching the actual Ghostbusters.
Now, especially when you have Afterlife too. Which, but by the way, as we're winding down to the complaints, let's talk about what this did well. And aside from Chris Hemsworth, funny.
Yeah,
it's funny in parts. It works in parts. But most importantly, what it did was make almost $100 million, keeping the franchise alive and giving us Afterlife.
More Ghostbusters. And the way I always look at this type of thing is more Ghostbusters is good Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Is it actually good? No. There's a lot of video games out there that are junk. I didn't really like Extreme Ghostbusters all that much. But
I'm a pretty much a purist on that too. The real Ghostbusters is what I grew up as a kid watching, and that's my cartoon.
Exactly. That I have them in the Time Life set on my shelf, and it's anything that puts more product on the shelf, I'm for, because I'm going to purchase it. And I really loved the look of some of the things, like the Proton Pack. I love their suits, the jumpsuits that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, my little girl loves the movie a whole lot, to the point where she wanted to be a Ghostbuster for a little while. And of course, when she saw the original Ghostbusters, she thought that was a much better movie. But
good on her. Good on her.
yeah, I know. But she still likes Girl Ghostbusters, as she used to call it. And because she would ask every so often to watch it. And it does work better as a children's movie.
Yes.
You know, it's bright, it's colorful, and it's, you know, it's inconsequential. It is fast food films. It is not intended to be art.
It's funny you put it that way, because you know what my note says?
Huh.
My note says that I put it in the same category as I put action flicks in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not winning awards. Sometimes you're just in the mood for some action or explosions. In this case, just in the mood for some silly, funny, just ring that particular bell.
Right. And that's really what it is. It's just occasionally you want the bad Chinese food, even if there aren't enough dumplings in it. That is a reference to a joke in the film. So if you haven't watched it in a while.
That whole thing, too, took me out of it. The whole chat. You know, it was funny, the first gag.
Yeah, it was dumb. But, you know. And I hate... Every time I discuss the movie, it gets more and more disillusioned in my mind because of the fact that it's like, I don't know what I can tell you that I like about it. I just do. You know, it's like...
Yeah, no, that fits perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, they're Ghostbusters. I am seeing Ghostbusters on a screen. This is fine.
And again, it brought in $230 million on a $144 million budget. So I don't know. Afterlife might have been made either way, but if this had flopped, you can promise you that it would have taken longer.
Right, and Afterlife was in the planning stages at this point.
So even worse, if this had flopped, they might have just canceled it altogether.
They might have, and it would have been so bad because they had just opened up Ghost Core, which is their Ghostbusters headquarters that they set up in Sony Studios, and it's great that they have this because now we're getting stuff. We have a cartoon that's coming. The second Afterlife is coming in December 20th.
Yeah, December 2023.
Mm-hmm. And that's really close. That's soon. I am super excited.
Oh, wait. Did you say this December? I thought it was next year.
No. Next December 20th.
So this coming up this year.
No.
Okay. That's what I thought, but then you said it was close. I'm like, is it? Wait. Did I have you wrong? Is it this Christmas?
No. It's still close. I mean, for a movie, that is close.
Well, especially a movie right now.
Yeah, because normally, you know, it's been taking 2-3 years to make a movie lately.
All right, guys. I think it's about time we move on to fun facts. You guys ready for that?
Let's do it.
What are they?
So fun facts. We didn't have very many for this one. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff to dig up. And I'm going to do the first one because I kind of already spoiled it. Paul Feig revealed that the first cut of the movie was 4 hours and 15 minutes long.
I still want to see this.
Me too.
If they released it as a TV show, that'd be cool.
I mean, just so I can say I've seen
League.
it. Yeah, just so I can say I've seen it. I don't even think it'll be great. I just, I want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, more Ghostbusters is good Ghostbusters.
Second fun fact, when the Ghostbusters early version of the proton pack fails and gets crushed by a subway train, did anyone recognize the sound that we made?
Uh-uh.
It was the failing hyperdrive from Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
It was literally that sound clip. And then the last fun fact we have, although Harold Ramis passed away before this movie came out, he passed away in 2014. He could not do a cameo, obviously, with the other castmates. There is a bust of Ramis' head just outside Aaron's university office in the beginning of the film.
Yeah, I did see that.
And then they donated that bust to the Harold Ramis Film School at Chicago Second City. Because that is where Ramis made his start, was Second City.
They keep advertising, trying to get me to join to to go to their improv classes?
Dude, I mean, if you can get in, it's like golden ticket.
Well, I don't want to move to Chicago.
You know who can tell you about
At
Chicago?
41. You know.
Jen here can tell you about Chicago. She grew up outside of it.
I'm from the Midwest.
Well, she's from Aurora. She's close to Chicago. The Midwest, I was from the Midwest.
Illinois is still considered the Midwest. Thank you.
Right, but I'm trying to illustrate that you are closer than just randomly the Midwest. You were
Yes,
a
I
suburb
grew
of
up
Chicago.
just outside of Chicago, and
Right.
there's lots of great food there. It's very
Oh.
gentrified now.
Well, I might have to run out there. My brother lives out there. I just never go visit him.
It's a nice city. It's a nice city. There's a lot of really cool shit there. My favorite was always the Museum of Science and Industry that's there, because that museum is just a tits. It really is. I could tell you cool stuff about it all day, but like my favorite part of it is there's a coal mine there, and it also has a beach submarine.
Oh,
So yeah, and you get to walk through the submarine. So cool as shit.
I will get stuck in it. I know it.
Me too. I always have like panic attacks every time we've wanted to go into the coal mine, because they really do take you all the way underground into the coal mine. You get on an elevator and it takes you very, very far down. And I always have panic attacks on the elevator. I'm like, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
I'm good.
I'd be the guy that gets down there and is like, "You telling me this is just a big hole?"
It's very, very cool. It's very cool. And there's a lot of hands-on stuff there. One of the best exhibits there is there's this whole section of the museum that is a replica of what, I don't remember the name of the street, but it's a replica of one of the famous streets in Chicago.
Mhm.
That in the early 1900s. And there's a big Barnum and Bailey. I mean, Barnum and Bailey are dickheads, but there's a big Barnum and Bailey exhibit, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's always good to see the history of things of that nature. But yeah, I wouldn't want to hang out with them.
No, you're like, you guys are dicks, but
Hey, look at your exploitation.
Really cool. Yeah, it's still really cool. And then when you get into Chicago, you can just go a little bit further to Wisconsin Dells, and there's some cool ass shit in Wisconsin Dells as well. So like the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, I always like to go in there and look at the oddities, because they have like the cow with 2 legs on its back, but yeah, it's
You'll have to take us one day, because I've passed through Chicago, but I've never really spent time there.
Mhm.
Chicago did teach me a very valuable lesson in my early 20s. Not every exit ramp on the interstate has an on-ramp.
Yep.
Oh.
I learned that in Chicago.
Yep.
And being like an hour away from New Orleans has taught me that. So that is a very poorly laid out city.
we needed gas, and I was like, we'll just pull off right here. Got the gas, got back in the car, and I was with my brother. I'm like, hey Matt, do you see the on-ramp? Nope.
Yeah, you'll have to like go through all these back roads to get there.
Yeah, this is pre-GPS too. So we found a biker who was very nice and said, follow me, I'll get you to the interstate. And I'm like, we might die, but let's go ahead and follow him.
Yeah, I have nothing else going on.
So we predicted a short one, and we were correct. Wally, as we're wrapping up, you got anything coming up? This episode's going to air on the 8th.
Not necessarily.
Any shows or anything you got planned?
Man, I haven't had any shows in a while. I feel like I'm semi-retired because I'm not doing anything. It's just been, a drought lately. I've been doing just podcasts. So if you listen to Nerd Cave Retro and their Patreon episodes, I do their, I don't do their commentary. I am on their commentary.
You make their commentary.
I don't know about that.
Not to promote someone else's show, but you should go check them out, because Wally's commentary is the best.
But I try. I did do commentary for the original Ghostbusters and several episodes of the real Ghostbusters. Lots of tidbits of trivia that I throw in there, and because I am obsessed with Ghostbusters, and if you meet me for 10 minutes, you'll know that.
Yes. Mom Thulu, I know that Innsmouth is on a break, but
yeah,
you got some patron stuff you're working on, yeah?
Yep, we're gonna do a Patreon episode. So the Patreon episode that we're gonna do, I said The Walking Dead at first, but then I went back and I started rewatching All of Us Are Dead, and I realized that I really needed a show, an American show that had that kind of grittiness, and I can't get that from The Walking Dead. So what we're gonna do is we're going to for our Patreon content, we're going to explore like genres of international kind and American kind and see, you know, which ones are better, because some of the international horror out there is just tits over what we have going on here in the US. So we're going to watch the very first episode of Black Summer and the very first episode of All of Us Are Dead. So Black Summer is an American zombie film, or not a zombie film, it's a zombie show, and it's done by Netflix. And then we're going to watch a Korean one, which is All of Us Are Dead, and that is another zombie show. It was actually a webtoon at first, a Korean webtoon, and they turned it into another Netflix show. So we're gonna take those two because, you know, they're both provided by Netflix, and that's the reason why I chose Black Summer over The Walking Dead. And we're going to, you know, just talk about the difference, like the stark differences in the storytelling, like the gore, all of that stuff. In comparison to Korean zombies. So that's what we're going to do.
That sounds fascinating as all get out.
Yeah.
It really does.
I may have made it sound a little more sciencey than it's actually going to be. So.
we do lead into the rag portion of Innsmouth Rag a lot.
It is a gossip rag. That is what we do.
All right, folks, if you do us a favor, if you liked what you heard, give us a review. If you're watching on the YouTubes, like and subscribe. It helps way more than I would have ever thought before I started doing this. Next week, you don't want to miss, we're going to have Derek Diamond.
Yeah.
Instead of Mom Thulu. Mom Thulu's taking a break, and we're going to talk about Super Mario Brothers 2.
Mom Thulu's not taking a break because Mom Thulu wants to take a break, but I hate the Mario movies, so that's why.
It's not the movie.
I'm sorry, the game. The game. I hate Super Mario 2.
You mean the classic game that got all of us into gaming?
Super Mario Brothers 2?
Well, I mean, Super Mario Brothers in general.
Okay, but see, Super Mario Brothers 2 is, you know what? I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Because you're not going to be on the episode.
I've had this discussion before, so.
Yeah.
This whole episode is basically me fighting Child Me, because Child Me hated it.
It's so bad.
Yeah, Child Me, I still hate that game, to be honest. I mean.
I played it again for this episode, because I played it before I decided if I was going to do this episode, because I got to like the thing to defend it. And it's better than I remembered as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, because now I can intellectually know, well, I'm supposed to do this. And whenever I was a kid, I'd get to certain points and I'd be like, I don't know what's going on.
Exactly. Second grade Mike had no clue.
Right. That's literally what was going on in my head. I had no idea what was going on.
But you were throwing onions at things, that's for sure.
Right. Why is Mario a gardener all of a sudden?
Well, not to spoil the next week's episode, but the short version is Japan thought we were too dumb to get the actual second Mario, so they reskinned another game.
Beautiful.
Might go into a Doki Doki Panic. Okay. Continue.
Yes. See, Wally knew what was up. But anyway, guys, thank you all for hanging out. Wally, thanks for coming on. We appreciate
I appreciate your patience.
You know, the first reschedule was for you. The second reschedule 6 months later was for me. So, you know, we'll call it even.
Okay.
One of these days I'll have to steal you away from NCR long enough to do a commentary, because you give good commentary.
Oh, absolutely. Just tell me what movie and I will be on. Watch it be something I have no idea anything about.
I would find that hard to believe. But guys, thank you again and have a good night.